Todd Dunn here on June 13, 2019. It's about 11:15 in the morning, and I am here at the Great Harbor Marina in Southwest Harbor, Maine, because we just launched my 1936 wooden powerboat, Tortuga, and here she is, all ready for the 2019 season. Everything is in good shape this year. Bilge pumps so far have run about 3 times in a little over an hour, which is really good. The hull is taken up really well. I did pre-hydrate it before we launched for about 4 days by tenting from the water line down and putting a lot of water under the boat to raise the humidity, and also by pouring water into the bilge. The blue tape around that center window on the front of the cabin house is there because that is the only opening window on the front of the cabin house, and the boat is currently facing east, and we're supposed to have an easterly tonight with a lot of rain, and that window does leak a little bit when the wind blows the rain against it. So the mast is up, boat is ready to go. I'm just going to do a few tests. I'm going to go on board and we're going to check and make sure the running lights are working this year and see how everything is going. Hi, it's now 1:07 p.m. I'm sitting here on Tortuga at the Great Harbor Marina. The boat came out of the boat shed at about 10:30. Now let me take a look at my Victron Smart Solar Charge Controller's output. There we go. I'll have to let the app load on the phone, and we'll get some information about how much we're getting out of my 100 watts of solar panels on this completely overcast day. Right now, the solar panels are putting out 25 watts. That's not bad considering that my solar panels are horizontal and probably can't be expected to put out much more than about 85 to 90 watts even if it was in full sun. So 25 watts. And so far, according to the Victron Smart Solar Charge Controller, I've put in 30 watt hours of charging. Now that's not completely right because this charge controller record keeping goes in 10 watt hour increments, so I'm somewhere between 30 and 40 watt hours in the last 2 hours and 40 minutes. So let's say 35 watt hours, which is about 2.8 amp hours. So that's how much charge I've gotten from the sun so far today. Now of course the batteries aren't 100% efficient at charging, so I'm probably realistically about 2 amp hours of charging so far today. And as I said, it's 1 o'clock, so I'll still have some sun probably for another 6 hours at least. Although it's supposed to start raining in about an hour and a half to 2 hours, which is going to cut my solar charging down. So I'd say that I'm probably going to get somewhere in the neighborhood of 3.5 to 4 amp hours of actual charge put into the batteries. In addition, I ran the engine for about 30 minutes to get over here to the marina after we launched the boat. Now my engine has a 115 amp alternator, and at the engine speed I was running to get over here, which let's say averaged about 1200 RPMs, my alternator puts out around 30 amps. So 30 amps for 30 minutes is 15 amp hours. Let's pessimistically say I put 10 amp hours of charge into the batteries. So I'm probably looking at somewhere in the 13 to 14 amp hours of charge into my batteries today from solar and from my alternator run. There's a mosquito flying around me. So is that going to keep up with my electrical draws today? Now that the boat is just sitting here at the marina, everything is turned off, all the battery switches are shut off, and the only thing that's connected to the batteries is the bilge pumps. I have 2 bilge pumps that come on when I have a bilge pump run, together they draw about 7 amps. So how long are they running? Well, I just timed my latest 2 bilge pump runs, and it was 15 minutes between bilge pump runs, and the pumps run between 8 and 10 seconds in a bilge pump run. So right now I'm running 4 times an hour for about, let's say, 10 seconds to be pessimistic, and I'll at maximum amp draw of 7 amps. If we extrapolate that out to 24 hours, it's about 1.9 amp hours coming out of the batteries. As you can see, that's less than I expect to get from solar today. It's less than I've already gotten from solar, and it's substantially less than I got from my 30-minute engine run. So yes, I have more than enough power coming in to keep up with the bilge pumps. As the hull swells up from being in the water, the bilge pump runs will become less and less frequent. And I expect that by tomorrow at this time, my bilge pumps will be running no more than 1 time an hour, which will put my total amp draw down to about half an amp hour per day. So it's not going to take much sun to stay ahead of that. And that's my experience for the last few years since I've had it solar on this boat, is that even 100 watts of solar more than keeps up with the bilge pumps, and in fact after a day or two will bring my 300 amp hours of battery capacity up to complete charge. So let's talk a little bit about my batteries. I have approximately 300 amp hours of battery capacity, and those batteries are charged only by solar or by engine runs. So where were my batteries when we launched the boat? Well, when we hauled the boat out about October 10th last fall, the batteries were at 100% state of charge from a combination of solar and engine runs. And the batteries sat in the shed all winter without being charged. And when I checked the batteries this morning, just before we pulled the boat out of the shed and into the sun, they were sitting at about 12.5 volts. So they lost about 25% roughly of their charge over the winter. I did not charge the batteries before we launched the boat. So I have roughly 75 amp hours to bring my batteries back up to full charge. So assuming battery inefficiencies during charging, let's say it's going to take 100 amp hours from solar and or engine runs to bring the batteries back up to a full charge. Now on a full sun day, I can expect about 40 amp hours from my solar panels. So let's say 30 amp hours of charging. So basically what that means is that I need 3 sunny days to bring my batteries back up to 100% charge. And I probably will get that in the next week to 10 days. We're probably not going to take the Tortuga out for any long runs for at least a week, because I like to let the hull swell up for that long, because when the hull swells, the planks press against each other and they don't want to move back and forth when the boat is underway. Makes the boat much stiffer, and basically it's just better for the boat to let it swell up fully before we make any engine runs. So the boat is going to sit here probably for at least a week before I take it off the dock to make any runs, and I expect that by the time we head out the first time that the batteries are going to be pretty close to 100% charge just from solar. So that's where we are right now. Everything is going well. The boat is not taking on very much water, probably a couple gallons an hour, and which is easily handled by my bilge pumps, particularly when you consider that I have an additional bilge pump, a 5,000 gallon per hour bilge pump that sits up on top of the keel about 4 inches above where the other bilge pumps are located. And that one is my backup pump. And frankly, in the 8 years that I've had this boat in the water, it has never come on except during tests. And I did test it this morning, and it is working. So that's my backup, but I'm never going to get to the point where it comes on unless I hit something and punch a hole in the boat. Anyway, that's my electrical situation. I'm expecting that within a couple days my batteries will be fully charged and everything will be looking good for the summer. Okay? I'll probably come back tonight just to check on the boat. I always like to check a couple times on the first day that the boat is in the water, just to make sure that everything is okay. And I'll probably shoot a little more of this video at that point. So, see you in about 6 or 7 hours when I come back to check things out. Hi, Todd Dunn here on June 14, 2019. I'm aboard Tortuga again today and just came aboard to see how she weathered the storm. I got off the boat just after 1 yesterday afternoon, and on the way home it started raining and wind picked up to around 30 knots out of the east last night, and we had about 2 inches of rain. So it was a wet night last night. I had planned to come back, but it was so wet and miserable that I just decided to stay home. So came back in today to see how well the boat weathered the storm. And I have to say it came through very nicely. A little bit of water got in, wind-blown rain, but not much, maybe a cup altogether, which is not bad. And this morning it was sunny until about 12:30. Then it clouded up and some fog rolled in. But by 12:30 the solar panels had put out about 18 amp hours of charging for the batteries. And when I got aboard just after 1 p.m. today, the batteries were sitting at about 13.3 volts. So I'm pretty happy with that. They're coming up. As I said yesterday when I was on board, I did not charge the batteries before the start of the season. I'm letting solar do it. And so far it seems to be doing a pretty good job. Yesterday, I'm not sure how much I got. Let me check. Well, even in the overcast right now, we're getting 37 watts out of the 100 watts of solar panel. And yesterday I got 90 watt hours. So that's about roughly 6 amp hours. And so far today, 250 watt hours. So that's about another 18 and a half. So about 25 amp hours so far into my batteries, which will be, about half of the deficit that I think the batteries were suffering when we launched the boat. So they're coming back nicely. Peak charge this morning on my panels, which are two 50 watt panels, they put out 98 watts. And that's for horizontal panels. So I'm really happy with that. We're getting good charging out of those panels, and they're operating right up near their capacity. So batteries are doing well. Since I've come on board, I've been on board now for 32 minutes, and the bilge pump ran about 15 minutes after I came on board. And hasn't run again, so I don't know how infrequently it's running, but I'd say probably no more than twice an hour right now, which will use up less than 1 amp hour over the course of the day. So my solar panels are staying way ahead of the bilge pumps, which is the main reason that I have them, because this boat, even though I'm in a marina, does not have shore power. I have no way to plug it in, So, and even if I had a way to plug it in, the boat doesn't have any provision for that. So my only charging of my batteries is from the sun or from the engine alternator when the boat is underway. Okay, other than that, I tested my refrigeration. It's working, which is good news. And I also just turned the heat on briefly, and it's working well, so I'm happy with that. So everything seems to be working. I tested the running lights yesterday before I left, and they were working fine. So, as of right now, everything on the boat is working the way it's supposed to, and we're just going to give it until Monday, it's Friday now, to completely swell the hull up by being back in the water after 8 months out before we run the boat at all. So Monday, the plan is to take the boat out for a couple-hour cruise, just as sort of an annual shakedown cruise. And it's supposed to be nice, no wind, which is good for this boat, means flat water. And it should have a pleasant cruise around because there still aren't very many lobster pots out there. And that makes cruising a lot easier since you don't have to worry about them as much. So that's where we are, ready to start another full boating season here in Southwest Harbor, Maine. I have both boats in the water, and we'll have to split my time between the two of them and basically try to enjoy the season as much as I can. We have roughly 4 months left of the season before haul out time. So, not a very long season, so you have to maximize the use of your boat. And how are we doing? Oh, 42 watts of solar now. It's brightening up a little bit. So I don't really have much else to do on board today. I mostly came to check and see how things got through last night's storm. And I'm quite pleased with how well the boat handled it. Everything is fine, had no issues at all, other than a little bit of leaking, which is around one of my windows. And a little bit of water leaked in through my skylight. But that normally always happens. It's not very well sealed. So we're ready for the 2019 boating season to really get going. And I'm hoping to be able to take you people along for a few cruises aboard Tortuga, my 1936 Nunes Brothers raised deck cruiser. And if we get a decent day without too much wind, maybe out for a sail aboard my 1972 Allied Princess 36 Sequester. So, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this little update, and I look forward to having you join me again as the 2019 boating season finally gets going.